Okay, so I have just resumed the recording, and that should have everybody in. For those that missed it, just welcome, good evening, and we are going to run through our annual report. Charlie's going to start with that, and then Gillian Smith will run through our accounts, and then we'll open the floor to questions to our panelists, including Paul Miller and Ilona Barnett. You are all on mute just to allow each person to speak clearly. Please use the raise your hand button or physically raise your hand if your video is on, should you need to ask any questions. And hopefully this will run smoothly. Charlie, over to you. Hopefully you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I can unmute myself. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your attendance. Obviously, this is a bit of a different PPORA sort of AGM, not at Stratford anymore. We just felt with the sort of lack of uptake on it, it was worth trying something different, and it'll be interesting to see whether this works out. I'm just going to run through the statement that we put out on our annual report, which some of you might have read, but for those of you who didn't, with the conclusion of the season that we've just had, reflecting on the year, I felt myself on the whole, the racing was competitive, and this was despite incredibly challenging conditions where we were almost always faced with dry weather and quick ground from March onwards. And I think the tracks in particular deserve massive praise for, by and large, the job that they did to provide decent racing surface. And some place that I went, I thought the job that they did would be the envy of professional tracks, and those that did were supported with good racing. And I suppose as we move forward, it's something that's going to become an ever more pressing issue of the sport, especially looking at under rules with the way that they're looking into quick ground, etc. And it might be something that is going to become a more pressing issue. And I think the sport, the point-to-point team needs to be on the front foot with this, and welfare is going to become an ever greater priority, and it's something that we're going to have to look at even further as we move forward. We congratulate all the national champions, riders, owners, horses, and personally for the PPORA, it was fantastic that such a variety of participants won our awards, different to the national award winners, which is really good, because I think at the PPORA we're trying to provide opportunities for everyone, and the fact that our national awards weren't just won by the people that won the point to pointing itself awards was a real fillip for us and our team, and it's important for us to provide opportunities for all, and something that we feel very strongly about. As we look forward to next season, we are starting to plan where we can invest in the sport to provide a better service for our members. We're going to roll out the grants again, but this time we're going to provide 10 £1,000 fixture grants. We're going to review each of those on their index, and by doing so, we're just going to encourage as many tracks as possible to get on with that right now. The opportunity to make your case to receive one of these grants is there on our website, and do that, and then the PPORA committee will review each one and decide on the 10 most deserving recipients. Again, we're doing this to try and better service the sport and try and protect fixtures that are in the most need and at the greatest risk of not being able to run into the season coming up. Secondly, we at our next meeting, we'll be having a conversation about whether we should increase the amount we invest in each race, with an agreement that a larger percentage goes directly to owners in prize money. We recognise that we need to do significantly more to support and attract owners to our sport. It's something that is challenging because it's not easy. We have limited and quite correctly prize money, and trying to even provide an experience that owners would get under rules is difficult, and it's something that I know Paul is passionate about, and something that we as a sport are going to have to work ever harder to encourage people into the sport. And also, I think if we were going to increase the prize, the amount of money that we provide for each race we put on. I think that would be with the caveat that maybe the people that enter into our races are given more owners passes as well, which is a common thing that that a lot of our participants don't feel that owners and syndicates becoming a greater thing aren't receiving enough badges. So that's something we're going to look at. We're able to do these financial incentives due to the hard work of our committee in reducing the running costs of the PPORA and also increasing the support through our commercial partners. So on that scale, on that part, we want to thank Spillers, Tougher Boots, and Charles Owen for supporting us this season, and hopefully we can look forward to working with them again in the season ahead. As always, we have an open door policy. Please, for people that aren't on the committee and beyond, get in touch if there's any way that we can better service you, our members, and people within the sport to enjoy it, and something that we're very passionate about. Just onto numbers, the PPORA and numbers in the season just gone. We had 62 races, only one of which was a walkover. 347 horses ran in the PPORA races. I think that worked out at a 5.59 average number of runners per race. We had 229 individual winning owners, 24% of the total ownership, 168 individual winning keepers, 33% of total keepers, and 152 individual winning jockeys, 53% of total jockeys, which again shows, I think, a real great spread within the sport of different people having the opportunity to win a race. Our membership numbers were 245 jockeys this season gone, 324 owners. We have 410 life members, and on the database now we have 1,206 people. So all in all, a relatively healthy position, and like I say, something that we are wanting to increase our membership as we move forward into the year ahead, and hopefully we can do that by providing ever more benefits to our owners and our jockeys, who I think we service well, but owners are going to be the priority. Steph, back to you, so we can hand over to Gillian for the actual report of the money side of things.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I will send around our annual report for everybody to read after this meeting, which is basically what Charlie has just run through in writing. And I will pass over to Gillian to run through the finances.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Gillian Smith. I'm the treasurer for the PPORA and have been for probably about 8 years now. I don't think you've had a copy of the accounts sent round, but they'll be with the report that Steph puts round at the end of the meeting. But basically to say that our income this year was 29,961, which was significantly up on 2023. And these accounts are for the year end September 2024. So it was the 23-24 point season. We had direct costs, which are our sponsorship and charitable donations and our annual lunch. Now, our sponsorship is where we pay people for having a race, where we've given the £100 for the races. And also in there was a couple of grants that we gave out. And in this accounts year, we gave a reasonably large donation to Keegan Kirby's family on his sad death. So that came from the PPORA because we knew they were strong supporters of point-to-pointing. On the sponsorship side of things, as Charlie's already said, we held 62 races in this year for PPORA members, but of which I've only actually paid out 46 races. Now, this is something I say every year. If secretaries, I go to the secretaries after every meeting and ask for you to send me bank details so that I can pay the money over to you. If I don't get a reply or I don't get the bank details and an invoice, then I can't pay it. So just a plea to, and I know there is one or two secretaries on today. So a plea that if you're going to have a point-to-point owners and riders race, please send me your details. Otherwise, I can't pay you. but we actually paid 46 races, and that included the championship race at Edgecote as well. And as I say, we gave a donation for Keegan Kirby, and we supported the Pointing Pointers podcast, so that was in those donations. And for the 2023-24 season, we also still had our annual lunch, which we paid the excess over to Ilona. She deducted money from the tickets and whatever the bill was at the bottom, we paid that at the end. So that, and then we had administrative costs, which these altered from previous years. Our secretarial expenses look as though they've actually gone up, but because that includes all of the broadband and the PA and everything that was done by, I can't remember her name, Alan Hill's daughter, Gabby Hill, or Gabby, whatever she was called afterwards. They were always showing as separate, but they all come on a bill now from Steph within the secretarial expenses. So the secretarial expenses look like they've gone up, but the advertising, PR and website costs have significantly come down. So that's why it's more in the secretary costs, but less in the advertising, PR and website costs. But the remainder of the other costs have all really stayed quite similar. Meeting costs were 469 this year as opposed to 460 the year before, so very similar. The one significant difference was bank charges. Now, we do have, excuse me, we have 5 bank accounts. We have 3 with Weatherby's and we have 2 with Lloyds Bank. And during this period, I think it was about June time, we changed our bank accounts with Lloyds Bank because we were paying bank charges, but I've got the 2 accounts now with Lloyds as community accounts, so we don't have to pay any bank charges. So their charges since July 2024 have now started to drop significantly because they've completely gone off. But unfortunately, Weatherby's, who never used to charge us, now charges an administration fee every month, which is £30 a month. So it's gone up on that side of things. But without having a Weatherby's account, we wouldn't be able to process the Hunter Certificate memberships or the rider qualification memberships come through Weatherby's as well, a lot of them. So they do a lot of work for us, which does make it easy for our purposes. So that's why we've got, and that's why we have Weatherby's accounts, because they can pay the money directly into our account then off the Hunter certificates and everything. The awards and prizes have gone up a bit as well this year compared to 2022-23, but that was because although we started getting a lot more sponsorship, that'll come into next year's accounts. But this was where we bought prizes for the end of year for when we were at Stratford last time. So that's about the most. So our expenditure this year altogether was, that I'm trying to find the figure, 11,394 on the administrative expenses, which is accountancy fees, and the 1,020 is still to pay. That's the accountancy fees, but will be showing as still a creditor because they don't get paid till after we've had our AGM each year. So it comes out of a different account. And our direct costs, as I say, was 10,880. So we actually, showing on here, have made a profit this year of £7,687, which is mainly due to the fact that Steph took on a lot of the PR and website costs and that type of thing, which is where a lot of those charges have been saved. So if anybody would like to ask any questions, I know Charlie ran through the amount of memberships that we've got in each different category, so I'm not going to repeat that.
Okay.
Julie and Charlie, can I just thank you both on behalf of the PPSA and the fixtures for your support that you give to the fixtures each year. It is really appreciated and it's a great initiative. And I will chase the fixture secretaries that haven't invoiced you for £100, but quite frankly, you know, I'm not going to chase them too much, because I think those that don't claim it, it should go back to you as a donation to be recycled, quite frankly.
Well, I did manage to catch up with a couple this year who hadn't claimed previously, and I did actually give them the money for previous year and this year as well. So a couple of them I have managed to catch up with this year, and as I say, I will do that. And for this season just gone and the season before, because especially in the 23-24 season, of course, we all know it was an exceptionally wet season. So there was a lot of people whose meetings had to be cancelled. And I still wrote to the secretaries, and we still gave them the £100 donations for wanting to host one of our races, because I thought it was only fair, because they had a lot of costs anyway that got set up and then it had to be cancelled right near the time. So we did actually pay out the money for those fixtures. And again, this year, the ones that it was exceptionally hard and they had to cancel because they couldn't water, again, because as a goodwill gesture, I have paid out the £100, because we would like for even more points really to come on with a PPOR race, but definitely the ones that already have a PPOR race, we would like to keep them holding one, and we thank them very much for hosting them a PPOR race.
Thank you.
Charlie, are you happy to go on with questions?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that's the main crux of why we're here, and so let's press on.
Okay, I will just start with the two that we have had in from Tim Garton, unless he is on himself. He is. Tim, would you like to start with your two questions that you'd sent?
Could you read them out?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
I can indeed. So the first one was, were the committee, and I'm assuming he means the PPORA committee, consulted over the conditions proposal? What is their opinion, especially regarding the 110 threshold? And also, what is the opinion on allowing licensed trainers to enter horses not owned by themselves or immediate family? Charlie?
Me, yeah. So with regard to the conditions race thing, which you know, obviously is an ongoing period of consultation now, so I don't want to dwell on it like too long. We obviously have our seat on the board, so we were given the full findings, and again, I think for all that, whatever furore or whatever people's feelings, there was quite a big body of work done on this, and again, the consensus I think beyond was that people found the existing conditions system confusing and hard to work. So from that perspective, you know, where the changes were agreed upon, and then there was not backlash, but people were questioning the timing of it and all these other things, and it's I think it's to Paul's credit and everyone else that therefore they've sat up, taken stock, and given this period for people to air their views, and you know, we are now going to revisit this in the very near future to make a decision. And it's actually been great to see all the participants kind of make their views known, as in, and so hopefully we can come to a decision that is more sort of palatable for everyone. With the 110 races, it was something that I was very keen upon. Now, probably as I liked the system the way it was, I would have probably liked it as an additional race or series to trial, because I thought it might be a way of getting more affordable horses into the sport to encourage people to have a go without having to have massive budgets. So I think we also have to be creative in race planning now moving forward, you know, to try and open up opportunities and other avenues. And I think the rating band is an interesting one. Now, whether it needs tweaking, you know, there's been a lot of people have their say about that. So personally, I think it does. And like I said, that's going to be discussed and a decision on that at a later date. So I don't think it's really fair to comment right now, but my feeling would be we can tweak that, but it's something to explore. Really, the professional trainers having runners not owned by their immediate family. I mean, as it stands, I don't see any reason for it. I mean, I suppose if Tim's getting to the fact that it kind of happens anyway by other means, I suppose we're all aware of that. And unless you're feeling that we just want to have it opened up, that therefore it is just there, I don't see a reason to change that. I think the fact that if a professional trainer wants to do that, they have to work around it, then so be it. But I don't see a reason right now to really open the sport up to professional handlers. You know, it's not supposed to be about that. But I also am fully in support of professional trainers using it maybe for young members of their team to get an opportunity to race ride. I think that has actually been something that has been a really good thing that has come about with Fergal O'Brien, Dan Skelton and others, using it to give young people within the sport, within their yards, a chance to race ride. And you never know, they might then stay within the sport if they're not able enough or lucky enough to make it as a professional rider in the future. So I hope that kind of is a long-winded answer, but sort of gives you some sort of views of where I'm at.
My question was really directed was, I've heard your opinion, Charlie, but whether the PPORA committee at one of the committee meetings actually had a chance to debate all these issues.
I mean, I suppose as it stands, we haven't immediately had a debate, but what we did have was once the conditions, we had the new system as it was going to be brought in, we had a very quick meeting and a discussion about it. I forwarded on an email, I think, Steph, to the group, didn't I? The PPRA committee as a group, as my feelings, of which I then emailed on to the PPA board. And then, as I've said, Paul opened it up. So we encourage as many of our committee members as possible to take the opportunity to put their thoughts through, which, I mean, and again, I was copied in on a few of our committee members' emails in, and I thought they were excellent, full of passion and sound thinking about their views on it. So, like I said, as in, I am a PPA board member, but I think it is to their commendment that they took stock, realized maybe it wasn't handled perfectly, and opened it up, and therefore we're hopefully going to get to a resolution that is forward thinking, which I think is really important, but also going to reflect the views of the participants, who some of which have said that they're not completely happy or not happy at all with the changes that were suggested. So I think it's a balance that has to be made, and I'm very confident that we will get to that.
Paul?
Just unmute yourself, Paul, if you can.
Yeah, sorry. I'll just throw in a few things there as well. So the race planning, the group that was looking at this across the whole season was made up of a cross-section of people from across Poynton. So they had owners, trainers, riders, there was people involved in fixtures, there was a bookie in there as well, there was some people that focus on the statistics. So it was a really good cross-section of people involved in that. They fed back their feedback to the board. They accepted most of those recommendations. When we put it out there, as Charlie said, it was mixed feedback we had. So we then put it out to consultation. And I think the interesting thing I've found, because I've read every single bit of feedback, so every person that has emailed in, some of them very long and detailed, some short. Most people very helpful, actually, trying to come up with good, thoughtful ideas on how we can benefit things. There were quite a few abusive people in there, but on the whole, really, really positive. I think by going through those responses, and most of them, not all of them, I've responded to yet. I've read everyone, and I want to give everyone a personal response, but it became very obvious that you can't please everyone. If we'd gone out, we'd put this across the whole of the Poynton community to begin with and had 1,000 people just giving us their general thoughts, we couldn't have made head nor tail of it. Whereas at least this way, it's given people something to focus on and respond to. I then did the report for the PPA board. That's gone back to them. And as Charlie was saying, in the near future, there'll be a board meeting for them to look at that and then decide what they want to do next. But I was fairly happy with the process with the group that looked at that. There was a good cross section of people across racing. And I'm really happy with the responses we've got in the back of the consultation. Again, I think that's given us a really good broad range of people feeding back. Finished.
Thank you, Paul. Tim, did you have anything else to add? Would you like me to go on to your next question?
No, nothing more. It appears that our committee, who represent our views, in total didn't really have much of a say as yet, but that's how it goes.
When you say our committee, do you mean the PPORA?
Yeah, this is a PPORA AGM meeting, so yeah. But anyway, I don't want to take up any more time. All my questions on this topic have been answered, so fine.
Gillian?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, we did have a Zoom meeting where we discussed this and we thrashed around lots and lots of ideas and comments, questions, some not so good, some quite good, some giving how it could be enhanced. And I must admit, off the back of that, I wrote my own email, Paul. And then when I was sat in the departure lounge at Leeds Bradford Airport, I wrote another one to him because I thought of a load more of other things to say. But I think when we had that conversation on the Zoom meeting, we had a good, frank and open conversation. There was a lot of ideas discussed, and it was obvious even on our committee that we couldn't all totally agree between each other anyway, but yet we came up with quite a good consensus of what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it. So I would say, Tim, in answer to your question, yes, we did discuss it, but I don't think we could have supported it and said, yes, we agree with everything, because we couldn't have done. But we were, as a committee, I don't think we actually said, no, we don't like it, throw it out. We thought there was some positives in and some negatives. So I hope that helps a little bit, Tim, with your answer.
Thank you, Gillian. Stephen?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Charlie, the days of multiple divisions is confined to history. These days, we're lucky if we can fill the safety factor. And with the graph on the number of horses going down every year, there doesn't seem to be a silver bullet to show that the sport has a future going forward if we're going to continue losing 10% of our horses a year. Now, I'm pleased that you like the concept of framing races for lesser horses. And I think that that's something that should be concentrated much more. I look at the results every week, and all I see is the same big yards winning race after race after race. And this is just not an encouragement for people to go and spend a lot of money at the sales to try and compete with them. And I just wondered what your view was as to putting on races, many more races for lesser horses. And the other thing I was going to ask you as well is the grassroots races. I understand, I believe, are for jockeys who don't have Cat A or Cat B licenses, but there's a 20 win ceiling. I mean, how many people actually ever ride 20 wins in a career? That number's just far too high, surely.
Yeah, Stephen, look, thanks for your point. I mean, look, I mean, I sadly definitely can't remember a time where we were having multiple divisions of races, as my cross section within the sport is only relatively small in comparison to plenty of people on this. It's a challenging thing, and like I said, and this is where I think the response to the changes was interesting, but I think we have to be creative, and I think we have to be open-minded, and therefore having a healthy debate about what we think is right or wrong is a good thing. Now, like I said, and I hear the responses about the ratings cap thing, and it needs tweaking. There's no doubt about it. But what you would hope is that it will give, as we've said, people with a smaller budget a chance to buy a horse and have a go. I mean, read the bigger yards dominating week in, week out. I mean, strictly always, I don't know if that's completely the case. And again, I suppose I would throw back to you. I'm sure even in times gone by, there must have been bigger yards that dominated. I mean, for all that there was a heck of a lot more runners. And I suppose in sport, you're always going to get that sort of scenario, the bigger yards, I'm not even going to say more able, but the yards with greater numbers are going to train the most winners. I do think we need to be more proactive in trying to get more people in and encourage owner trainer riders. But it's also, I think a lot of that comes down to cost now as well, you know, as in I just don't think the way that the landscape is framed and the community of people involved, it's just not accessible possibly in the way that it was 20 years ago for someone just to have a go and train their own horse. We at the PPORA are definitely always thinking about ways we can encourage. And I suppose in the immediate, if we can try and help to up prize money and owners' days out and their experience, then that has to be an immediate plus. And sorry, what was the second part of your question there as well? I mean,
I was just saying that the 20 winner cap.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, I mean, the grassroots races again was a trial of something new. I mean, if you read the ideas for next year, I mean, again, I think we at the PPORA and me and as I definitely, especially, have been a real advocate of the upping of the novice rider status to 10 winners. And the fact that we're going to get a £5 claim bought in for people until they've ridden their 10th winner, which I think is a really, really good move and shows a reflection of a much more of a pathway. I'm not going to say for young riders, because it might be for someone a lot older than that to gain an advantage. You know, again, I thought it was slightly narrow-minded, some of the views before, that having a claim was pointless because the better riders were worth a stone, and so 5 didn't matter. Well, simple mathematics tells you at least that makes you £9 worse off rather than the stone if you have a £5 allowance. So I think hopefully that can be something that can help riders be more attractive for longer. I mean, certainly we try and give young riders chances. I know from a point of view in the yard, if we can hopefully get some more older horses, if I was able to use a young rider to claim 5 off a restricted horse at a penalty or an intermediate, it would make it way more viable to use a rider with less experience when you're getting a tangible weight allowance. So I think all we can do is try new things. And as you say, trying to find the silver bullet to try and avoid the silver bullet, it's going to be challenging, but all we can do is keep trying. And again, I think the more we can have people within the sport airing their views and trying to make positive suggestions has to be a good thing.
Thank you.
Tim, Sage. If you just unmute yourself, sorry.
Okay, yeah. Well, just Stephen, last year there were 2 sorts of grassroots riders races. There was actually only one at Didmarton, which was for riders that didn't have a Cat A or Cat B license. All the others were just for riders that hadn't ridden more than 20 winners. Personally, I think, and it wasn't the Beaufort's idea. We never called it a grassroots race. That came from the PPA or Weatherbridge or whoever. But personally, I think the term grassroots is far more relevant when used for riders that don't have a Cat A or B license, because they have no aspirations to go beyond point-to-pointing, so they are genuine grassroots. And whereas some of the grassroots races, which were for riders who hadn't ridden 20 winners, there were riders riding in there that had I think one had ridden 9 winners under rules, and it had over 100 rides under rules. So yeah, that's my point. There are 2 sorts of grassroots races at the moment, and my preference would be for those which are for riders who don't have Cat A or Cat B. When we introduced the race at Didmarton, I consulted Peter Wright, who told me that at that time, which I think was 3 years ago, more than half of the riders with qualification certificates didn't have a Cat A or B license. So it's quite a big pool of riders that fit that.
Thank you, Tim. Ian, Channing, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, is that working?
Yeah.
Yeah, so leading on from what Stephen said about the uncompetitiveness, as I mentioned in the group the other day about the Premiership rugby and the spending cap, which is a different idea. I don't think anybody else has brought this idea up, but it does work very well in Premiership rugby. It means that all the teams are equally matched. The games are they're really close. It's really exciting. And it works. I've spoken to a lot of people that don't have pointers anymore, and they feel that they can't afford a horse good enough to compete, which is why they've sort of felt a bit dejected. And this wouldn't affect that many people, but it would create the perception of a more level playing field. So I wasn't actually. I was in two minds actually. I was whether I was going to raise this, but it does fit on the back of what Stephen was saying about looking at the results, seeing the same people, the same horses, very prohibitive odds. And I watched the Premiership. Did we watch the Premiership rugby final the other day? There was 2 points in it, I think, come the end. It does work there, and that's where I've got the idea from. And so it works very well there. Anyway, I'll stop speaking now.
Thanks, Ian. Paul Miller, yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry. Just coming back to that, I think that's one of the reasons they come up with a not 110 rated series or rated races, because that idea was, and this was a kind of background to it, that our horses within that rating are under rules that are uncompetitive, that can be bought relatively cheaply. If we have a series or a type of race for them within pointing, they can be competitive coming back here. And as I say, they shouldn't be too expensive. And the theory behind that was actually come up by two separate committees. One was our race committee and one was a jockey club committee that were looking at point to point and how they can support it. So both of them in isolation, there was no crossover. Both in isolation came up with the idea of that. So that was part of that purpose. Can we attract some horses, cheaper priced, and give them a chance to be competitive within pointing?
Okay. Just while we are on competitiveness, when it comes to the PPORA numbers, and I can't speak for all of the other races, but for the PPORA numbers, it is worth noting that we had 229 individual winning owners of our races, and we have 324 registered owners as members. So the spread of winners is across the board, and 53% of jockeys won the races as well. So there has been a real spread. 347 different horses ran in the races. So it's not been, our PPORA races as a whole have not been dominated by one in particular. Gillian?
Yeah, Steph, I think that is good and testament to the fact that now when we give the PPORA races, we're saying to points, you put it on whatever race you want it on. It doesn't have to be a novice riders race. And yes, we still want to support the novice riders and bring more novice riders in, but it is giving a lot more owners the opportunity to have a chance of entering a PPORA race and going in a PPORA race. So that's why, obviously, we've got 2/3, if not 3/4 of our owner members actually winning a race. And that's really good, I think. And it just shows then that you don't have to spend loads and loads on horses. Because I'm sure in that bracket, there'll be a complete range for something that cost a lot to something that didn't cost that much as well.
Yeah, I know our committee have discussed at length Ian's idea of the salary cap, finance cap of some sort, but we couldn't necessarily agree on how that would roll out. And it'll be interesting to see how these 0 to 110 races pan out. Have we got any other hands up for questions? Stephen,
Yeah. Just in answer to your last point about salary, sort of football financial fair play, that's fine if you're buying horses at public auction, but private sales you couldn't monitor.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that, you know, when we've been discussing ideas like this with the committee, that there's lots of challenges with a process like that. So perhaps the rating system is one way of targeting horses at a cheaper price. I would say that there are horses out there for purchase that are not exceptionally priced, though. I do still think there are plenty of horses available for pointing at all levels, at all ages, that are there to be bought. But it's not easy find, and it's a lot of hard work, and that's sport and that's competition for you. So it is very challenging, you know, perhaps a lot more challenging than it used to be.
That is something from a marketing point of view we could do better, and maybe at the PPORA even, you know, seeking out the horses that haven't been bought for a lot of money, that aren't trained by the high profile yards in inverted commas, and try and showcase more that it can be done. And I think it is done far more regularly than people actually give credit for, you know, as in but I do agree that there is often a perceived barrier to being able to compete from a financial point of view, and many other restrictions that people perceive, but maybe it isn't anywhere near as insurmountable as they possibly think.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we hit the nail on the head there in terms of perception over reality. You know, the perception of how much these horses are costing because they are in perhaps the bigger yards, and the reality of how much they cost are very different. The top 5 horses in the country in British pointing, I know of at least 3 of them were less than 5 grand. So it wasn't that they were extortionate money to buy. I think Luke Price's champion horse was what, 800 quid. So it isn't necessarily you have to buy your way to the best horse. You have to be able to find him, which is the hard part. Any other questions? Hands, please.
Did Graham have his up briefly? I don't know.
I think he did, but he said he was okay now. Anybody else? Any other questions for the committee? No? Oh, hang on. I've got one. Gillian?
Yeah, just a question for Paul, actually. I know on the press release that was put out, it said you were having a board meeting and everything to discuss this. So once that the board meeting's taken place, are you still intending on the whatever you've decided for the new regulations to be in place for this coming season? And are we still working to the same timescales for the point secretaries to do their race planning and everything? Or would there be longer for secretaries to be able to reconsider if they want to change the races or their race schedule, or for the area race organisers to get together with the neighbouring ones to see if there's a good spread of races on?
Well, at the moment, we're still working towards the same timeframes as last year, and at the moment that's doable, but it all depends on the outcome of the board meeting and the various decisions they make. So it's all on the table at the moment. It can be flexible, but at the moment, yeah, we'd still be looking at ideally at the same timescales. And that's because part of that is tied in with the planner going up to where it's being published and the fixture list being published in time and various races put in there before Christmas. So ideally, yes, but I think it's yes, we can update on that in a not too distant future.
Are there any other questions or comments, please? No?
Yeah, can
Tim? Yeah.
We've heard that a lot of people found Peter Wright's levels 1, 2, and 3 complicated and hard to understand. I'm wondering who these people are, because as I was a one-man band training my own horses at home, I used to spend hours going through the planner looking for the perfect races for my horse, and the last thing I want is for all the races to be the same and standardized. And if I was paying someone else to train my horse, I think the least I could expect is that they would do the same. I don't really see how we expect to attract more horses when we're reducing the variety of races they can run in, which seems to be the case, especially with the 0 to 110 handicap rating. I mean, if you have a horse which once in its youth had a rating over 110, and basically if it's not an open horse, which it probably isn't, it only has one band of races to run in, as far as I can see. That's the secondary level. I can't remember what the name of that is. Progressive races. I mean, I know of 3 horses that ran last year, which once had ratings over 110. They ran in level 3 races and none of them won. And I spoke to 2 of their owners, and they said, well, about this, and they said, well, it's a waste of time going on with them next year. This year we were racing 3 levels below opens and we couldn't win. And next year we were obliged to race at 1 level below opens. So that's why I think at least if we're going to have this 110 rating, it shouldn't be backdated more than whatever the cutoff date was. With level 3, it was 2.5 seasons ago, perhaps. And I think that the handicap rating should apply to that, not a lifetime.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Oh, yeah, I keep having trouble unmuting myself. And that's a good point that you're making, Tim. And that's what was interesting about putting it out to consultation, because we had people that said they liked the conditions races as they were, with people that said they didn't like them, with people that said they liked them, but they could be improved, with people that liked the new ones that had been put out there, but said leave them as they are, or they can be improved as well. And it was fascinating, the input and the ideas. It was really fascinating. And that's why I had to read every single one of them before I could do that report for the board, for them to take on board what they want to do next. Finished.
I guess it's stay tuned for what that will be.
Yeah. We want to get it right. I think that's the thing. The board want to get it right. Okay. Well, everyone wants to do it. And that's what was good about the consultation as well. Everyone wants to do what's best for the sport. And that was refreshing. That was very nice to see. Right. I will shut up.
Are there any other questions? As Charlie mentioned at the start, our door is always open. Our emails are always available, and our mobile numbers, etc., for your area representatives and ourselves are on the website. So should you need to contact us directly, you are more than welcome. I will circulate our annual report that we went through at the start of this meeting round on email to everybody in this meeting. Feel free to reply with any further questions.
Hello.
If you'd rather. Oh,
am I okay to speak?
Yeah, go on, Ian.
Yeah, I just couldn't work out how to put my hand up. So the point Tim makes about the planner and the sort of reading of the planner, yeah, that's fairly basic, but that's area specific. I think he's in the Midlands. So if you're in the Midlands, you can go 2 hours in either direction. So you could find a race north, east, south, or west. If you're in the bottom of Wales, or if you're in Scotland or Yorkshire, or if you're in Devon, like I am, you're going to run at your local meeting, really, regardless of that fascination of finding the perfect race. We're not going to route through the planner and find the perfect race and drive 4 hours for it, because the economics just aren't there. So that sort of that fascination nearly of reading all the way through the planner and finding the perfect race. I'm not going to drive from Devon to Yorkshire to run in the the perfect conditions race. You run at your local meeting really, because that's the only way you can do it. You have to sort of bear that in mind, I think.
Just with that, I mean, I think we just have to kind of also accept that, it is a sport for all. So I completely agree, Ian, that there are going to be people in areas that feel that way, but then there are others that maybe want to be more creative and use the planner. And I think this is what the whole process we've gone through is to try and make it that there are going to be opportunities for everyone. And like I said, I think that's why this consultation has been actually a real positive effect, because it's actually, we've heard a lot more opinions from people within the sport about where they'd like to see its direction, and it's given them a chance to actually express their feelings, which I think is to be applauded, really.
Any further comments or questions? Gillian?
Well, I was just going to add to that is that it is really good to see so many responses, because I know we ask for questions and whatever and we don't get so many. And so maybe Paul and his committee should be applauded for putting out a document that has really inspired people to put their views forward, so that a really informed decision can now be made going forward. And it has inspired so many people to actually show how passionate they are about the sport and how they do want it to continue in whatever guise that we have to go forward in to try and make it work.
Yeah, totally agree. Anyone else? Some final words from you, Charlie, or are we done?
Yeah, I think we're done. I mean, again, just to echo what you said, that we are very much open to anyone with any ideas or feedback, and I mean, there might be people that don't feel comfortable speaking out in this sort of environment. So if you don't, just get in touch directly with myself or Steph or whoever's your local area rep, and we can then feed your thoughts and comments into the PPA board, which is what we're here for. So yeah, I mean, I think if the one thing this consultation thing has shown is that there are plenty of people passionate about the sport, and let's not see this as a one-off. Let's continue to air our views and try and drive forward new ideas and help shape the sport in the direction that we want it to continue in. And fingers crossed, under Paul's tenure, we can hopefully see an upturn next season of numbers registered and beyond that into the future.
Paul.
And to unmute. Yeah, just two things on it. I think I've really enjoyed the consultation process, and I'm probably making a rod for my own back, but we'll probably do it twice a year going forward. Because I think it's really good as you talk about the passion of people, but I just think it's good that people have got a voice and they've got an avenue to tell us what they're thinking as well. And it might stop people abusing me at point-to-points when they go racing, so it could have a double bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to I can see quite a few names on the list here that did email in, so thank you to those ones. And apologies to any of you if I haven't replied to you yet. You will get a reply.
Perfect. Thank you. Alrighty, well, I guess we better draw this meeting to a close, and thank you everybody for attending. And I will follow up shortly, as I mentioned, with the annual report. And we look forward to seeing you all after a nice summer break. And we'll be back in November. We will be holding a committee meeting towards the end of July, meeting date yet to be set. And that's where we will go through, as we mentioned earlier in the meeting, about where we will be investing our finances. So we will update everybody on those as well. But that's something that we will do in conjunction with the PPA and the PPSA. Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.